Dance, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you so much for your love and kindness and support. So today's video is gonna be on hospice and end of life signs and symptoms. Okay, what are some signs and symptoms that our loved ones will basically will display during end of life care? Now, just understand that some people will manifest one of these signs, two, all of them. So everybody is different, so it's individualized, all right? So I hope that this will be a tool to help you to know when these signs appear. So that please use this video as a guide to just help you to understand better as you care for your loved ones, okay? So I have notes, so I'm gonna just make sure I cover as much as I can in this short video that we have together. So first of all, I want to make it clear, want to just define what are signs versus symptoms, okay? Signs are basically things that that can be observed by others, okay? So things that we can see, such as we can see if somebody's bleeding. We can see if somebody's coughing. We can see if somebody's sweating. Okay, so those are signs. Okay, and symptoms basically are only experienced by the patient. So symptoms are only experienced by the patient. A prime example of that is pain. If a patient says, "I'm in pain," we are not experiencing that as a caregiver, but we have to go and listen and believe what the patient says, that they are having pain. A prime example also is that you will always hear the nurse say, "Please rate your pain level. Is it a 1, meaning very minimal pain, or is it like a 10, like example, like it's like you're giving birth?" Would be like a 10. So pain is whatever is a symptom. Okay, so it's what the patient says, and a sign is what we as caregivers we can see. Okay, so we know the signs and symptoms. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some signs and symptoms. We're going to talk about 7 signs and symptoms. Okay, the first one is lack of appetite. Okay, our loved ones don't want to eat or drink. Now, this one is the hardest for the caregivers to understand, to accept, because eating is a form of showing love. Okay, so for example, what do you do? What do you do when somebody comes into your home? The first thing you do is offer them something to eat or something to drink. That's like part of our culture. We like to feed people. Okay, so imagine when we cannot feed our mom, dad, brother, sister, husband, children, so that's really hard to understand. So we think that the patient is starving, that they're starving themselves, but that's not the case. That's not the case, because just think about it. Our body is like a machine. It's like a car. When we are healthy, when we are moving about, we need energy, right? So we use food and drink as a form of energy. So when the body is doing the opposite, the body does not need food or drink. You see what I mean? And even in extreme circumstances, okay, where I've had families put a G tube down the patient's mouth, down the nose, the nutrients, they're not being absorbed by the tissues. They're not being absorbed by the organs, because everything is slowly shutting down. You see what I mean? And so think about this way also. When we're living, we live, we eat, we use that as fuel. And when the body is doing the opposite, the body doesn't need the food or the drinks. It's not stopping itself. It's just that the supplements, the vitamins, they're not going anywhere, and like I was saying with my example with the G tube, what happens is that the patient ends up, the food that we're putting down in the tube, it just kind of stays there, just kind of pools in the lungs, in the chest, because it's not being sucked in by the patient's bodies. And so what often happens is that you get what you hear as aspiration pneumonia. All of the fluids is being built in the lungs because it's not being sucked in. It's not being utilized by the body because the body does not require food at this time. And so, like I said, that's a very sensitive topic. It's a very sensitive matter for the family to grasp. Slowly, with teaching, with a lot of education, a lot of TLC, we help families to understand this. Okay, so that was number one. Number two is increase lethargy. Okay, increase lethargy, fatigue, lack of energy. All right, so where we see where the patient will probably spend a good 12 hours sleeping in bed, 18 hours plus in bed, they don't have energy. Somebody who used to walk will start needing a wheelchair, will have frequent falls, will probably need a wheelchair, and eventually will become bedbound to the point that they're completely bedbound. They don't get out of bed. And so that's another sign and symptom. It's lack of energy. Okay, the third one, confusion is the third one. But before I go into that, I just want to go back to number two, which is the lack of energy and wanting to sleep more. Now that also is a tough one for our older couples. Okay, just imagine being married or having been married for 40 years, 50 years, and you and your wife, you and your husband has built a routine, whereas every morning you wake up at 8 a.m., you have your coffee, you read the newspaper, you watch TV, you go for a walk, and now all of a sudden the patient wants to wake up at noon. And so I've had, our elders say to me, well, Dawn, I want to get her up and I want to get him up. We used to do this, and now she just want to stay in bed. So it's like, I have to explain, Mr. Smith, this is a new normal now, okay? It's okay for your husband to stay in bed long. His body wants to rest and just need the time, okay? So that's that for number two. Now, number three, like I was saying, the confusion. Now, a lot of times, the patient will not know what time it is, what day it is, will not be able to remember. His or her short-term memory will basically not be the best. And that's another thing that we have to teach the family, that says, talk about things that has happened like 20, 15 plus, years ago. It's okay if he or she, if the patient does not remember what, she ate this morning or what happened yesterday, because, increased confusion is another, signs. And then number four is increased anxiety and increased agitation. And we sometimes see that more with our patients who has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, dementia. Sometimes, the patient might yell more, just be more aggressive, be a lot more restless. And that's why my other video, please go check it out. It talks about medications that helps with some of these symptoms. Okay, some of these signs and symptoms. And then the fifth one will be incontinence. A lot of our patients will be incontinence of bowels and bladder, will no longer be able to go to the bathroom by themselves. And so that's where a lot of personal care, incontinence care is really important to maintain skin integrity, because we don't want the patient's skin, our loved one's skin, to start to break, because then we get into infections, we get into pressure ulcers, and it's just really uncomfortable. Okay, so we need to do good incontinence care. All right, moving along. Number 6, the 6 signs and symptoms that I want to talk about. And please just bear in mind that there could be more, okay, but I just want to just focus on these 7 signs and symptoms. Okay. The 6th one is fever. Some of our patients might have a fever. Their heart rate could fluctuate, between being high and low. And so there are medications to help to alleviate those signs and symptoms. The medications really works well. And even things like putting a cool cloth on somebody's forehead if they have a fever, that's really helpful too. It really soothes, it helps you to feel more comfortable. Okay. And then the last signs and symptoms that I want to talk about is the respiration. Okay. Our loved ones could have a very slow, okay, rhythmic respiration, or it could be high. Okay, it could be period of they could have apnea, so labored. So that's why we have medications, we have oxygen that we could provide. We have a variety of things that we do to maintain the most optimal comfort for your loved ones. Okay, so I hope this video informational. I hope you learned some things about the signs and symptoms of end of life, and how we as hospice nurses educate the family. We work together as a team. Okay, we're not here to take over. We're here to be an added support to you during such difficult time for everybody. So please comment. Let me know what other topics you'd like me to talk about. Okay, share this video. I love you with the love of Jesus. Okay, enjoy. Have a pleasant day. God bless.